Hello and welcome back to Deus Machina Demonbane. This will be your first chance in a while to show your power. I understand your excitement. However, before you go on your rampage, I have something to say. Metatron, correct? Oh, Black Angel? She is my prey. I won't give her to anyone, and if by chance she appears, you are not to lay a finger on her, Anti-Cross. My, are you worried that I'll steal your precious angel? Oh, you men in love are always so fussy. Sandalflon's black mask can't keep his boiling hostility from leaking into the air. Worry not, Black Angel. Unfazed by Sandalflon's murderous aura, the samurai speaks briefly. I understand your attachment to her as a warrior, and very well, I will not lay hands on her before you. Eh? You don't mind, Titus? Doesn't that angel look like a pretty tasty morsel? And this clown? Ignoring the teasing, the samurai points with his chin at the clown's smiling mask. Will do the same. Worry not, Sandalflon. I've delivered my warning. Don't forget it. Okay. Now, let's get this started. The target is the Hadou estate. In that manner, perhaps I will find a stalwart foe to quench my thirst. As for me, I'll be quenching my thirst on little Miss Ruri. Still laughing, the clown melts into the building, vanishing from sight. At the same time, the samurai leaps into the air. He hops from building to building, dashing across the vertical walls. And with cold eyes, the Black Angel watches the inhuman hunters go to battle. No doubt this night will become a banquet for you. Feast to your heart's content, sorcerers. And with those cold words, Sandalflon turns his gaze to the hunter's destination. There lies the yet peaceful and calm Hadou estate. The setting sun dyes it blood red, as though foreshadowing the tragedy to come. Please wait here. Yeah, thanks. I nod my thanks to the maid as she leaves the room, then take a sip of the tea she brought in. Next to me, the scowling owl is stuffing tea cakes into her mouth. So you've come all this way to apologise? Nonsense. I keep telling you it's unnecessary. Come on, the princess is my client after all. If this keeps up, it'll have a very bad effect on our work too, you know, so... I mean, well... Oh, you know, it's... Look, it's my responsibility to try and smooth things over here. That way, I'll be able to utterly eliminate any and all possible sources of anxiety. So right now, I have to devote my entire body and soul to optimistically make the best of a situation that we might benefit in the future from the advice and guidance of... Enough! Be silent. Oh, damn, how the hell am I going to apologise? I'm so nervous that my heart is pounding like a hammer. My lungs hurt with every breath. Stop moaning, you'll ruin my mood too. You're already pissed off. I can't help but feel awkward and uncomfortable. I'm not suited to this heavy atmosphere, damn it. Ruri's thoughts are interrupted by a knock on her door, and she responds, making an effort to keep emotion from her voice. What is it? I apologise for disturbing your rest, but Mr. Jujuru and Al-Azif have come to see you. I'm tired. Have them come back another day. As you wish, I shall tell them so. She could sense Winfield walking away from her door. And with a sigh, Ruri picks up the photograph on her desk. In the picture are a young Ruri, her smiling parents and her grandfather. It's a picture from the time when she was happy, without worries. And in the shadow of those blessings, a terrible evil was always lurking. Father, mother, grandfather were always fighting against that evil. Always. Although nobody knew. Is she as strong as her grandfather was then? Can she keep fighting against the unjust? While reminiscing of days gone by, Ruri questions herself. After a few minutes of heavy silence, I hear someone knocking on the door. She's here. I suddenly find myself standing at attention. My heart's trying to burst out of my chest, and I can hardly breathe. And as the door slowly opens, Thank you for waiting, Mr. Hadou. Now, it's the butler who enters, and the princess is nowhere to be seen. Can't tell whether I'm relieved or disappointed, but I'm definitely tired. I collapse onto the sofa. I apologize. Mistress Ruri is resting today. She hopes you will return another day. I see. You expected too much. The princess is clearly avoiding me. Still, I guess it's to be expected. Well, I'll give up for today. I understand. I'm sorry to bother you. I'll come back when it's convenient for the princess. Just as I get up to leave, the butler speaks. Mr. Hadou, please don't trouble yourself so. When it comes to the old master, Mistress Ruri is a little sensitive. I think highly of you, Mr. Hadou. No average man would undertake these trials lightly. Well, while I'm trying to figure out how to respond to his unexpected support, the butler smiles. You've come all this way. It would be rude to send you back so soon. If you have some time, perhaps you would be so kind as to listen to a little story. Well, if you say so, how about it, Al? If you bring me more tea and cakes... Al and I return to our chairs. Sitting across from us, the butler begins to tell a story. I know. I'll tell you a story about Mistress Ruri. A story of the good old days. 2 generations ago, the great Hadou built the Hadou Group from the ground up, turning it into a world power in the blink of an eye. And about his success there is much to tell, and much of it is exaggerated legends. I suppose you could call them rumours. Some say that Hadou's vast capital came from a gold vein that he had found in his youth as an explorer, and that he had hidden from the world. Some say that Hadou was the secret ruler of all America's criminal organizations. Some say that Hadou was a great sorcerer who had sold his soul to the devil, and so on and so forth. But those tales are all nonsense, of course, without the slightest bit of proof. However, it is true that Hadou was a man who made them believable. That is how superhuman Hadou seemed. It is as though he could read the future, and he was always 1, 2, or 10 or 20 steps ahead of everyone else. He poured his money into the most foolish and reckless enterprises, and every one of them succeeded. Arkham City was one of those enterprises. Many financial crises took place throughout his life, but he avoided them all. And even as the rest of the world trudged through economic recession, the Hadou Group and its protectorate, Arkham City, remained ever prosperous. And drawn by its glory, people flooded to Arkham, and it grew even greater. The Hadou Group continued to expand at an unimaginable pace, as though it were swallowing the whole world. Until the time of his death, Hadou was the de facto king of the earth. And that great king was Hadou Ruri's grandfather. After leaving the president's chair to his son, Hadou focused his power into raising his granddaughter, and it was as though he was putting all that he was into her. His education was strict, and in his firmness there was undeniable love, so Ruri never felt any bitterness towards her grandfather. Above all, everything that he taught was new and fresh to her. Economics, management, rulership, languages, and many other things that she could never have learned in school. Wisdom born of his diverse experiences. Like a parched desert thirsting for the rain, Ruri soaked up everything that he would teach her. And when they were not studying, Hadou was the epitome of the doting grandfather. He would take her to new and interesting places to play, and even Ruri's parents were shocked at how much he spoiled her. Perhaps it was because of all the time they spent together, but at some point Ruri came to see what lay behind his face as the fearless ruler, behind his face as the loving grandfather, the deep pain and the sorrow that hid there. For example, the grimness of his countenance when the latest reports came in of tragedy caused by Black Lodge's rampages through Arkham. At first she thought that her grandfather, with his strong sense of justice, was merely angry at the terrorism. But eventually she realized that that was not all. There was some greater tragedy at work. But Ruri never found out what it was. But she knew that, because of that tragedy, Her grandfather had been fighting with Black Lodge since before she was born. Did he only fight to protect Arkham City? She thought not. For example, his face when he talked to her father. There was no doubt that her grandfather loved his son. Ruri's father likewise respected her grandfather, and together they supported the Hadou group. To her father, her grandfather was a loyal confidant, the ultimate teacher, and most of all a beloved parent. To her grandfather, her father was a loyal partner, the ultimate successor, and most of all a beloved son. That was the truth. There were no problems. There shouldn't have been any. Why would she sometimes see the pain of regret or perhaps guilt on the face of her grandfather when he looked at his son? And that too Ruri never understood. All she knew was that her grandfather was fighting with something utterly beyond imagination, some destiny or despair greater than the organization known as Black Lodge. She could clearly see that Hadou Kuzo, a man who was called great, superhuman, even demonic, had donated his entire life to that battle. And when she realized that, she began to see her strong and kind grandfather as a pitiful old man covered in wounds. And then she cried with all her heart. But while everyone else was shocked by her sudden tears, only her grandfather remained calm. And without saying anything, he embraced the sobbing Ruri. And when she finally calmed down, her grandfather looked straight into her eyes and spoke. And Ruri could not say anything. All she could do was cry. But her grandfather alone knew the reason for her tears. He was always able to see deep into people's hearts. Ruri, I have never thought of my life as hard or cruel. For you, your father and mother, and everyone else has been a part of it. And I know that after I am gone, there will be a future for you and many good people who I don't even know. You are the support that lends me stand, and it is your futures that guide me ahead. That is why I can fight. That is why I can love and cherish the pain that I bear. I am blessed. Grandfather. For Mistress Ruri, the old master was an enormous presence in her life. I too have never met a man as great as the old master, so the mistress's reaction is understandable. Even I know about Hadou Kuzo's exploits. Every bookstore in the world has volumes on him after all. But hearing about it directly was pretty impressive. What a beast. I see. So her emotional instability comes from an inferiority complex towards the greatness of her grandfather. It's hard for the average to have great parents. You're always so hostile. Yes, but there is one more reason why the old master is so important to Mistress Ruri. Do you not know why Mistress Ruri has succeeded to the presidency at such a young age? In other words... I get it. That's how it is. What is it? The last president, in other words the princess's father, passed away along with his wife. It was a pretty big deal, even I know about it. The Hadou Group's president and his wife were killed by Black Lodge terrorism. As a result of that incident, Black Lodge's infamy grew dramatically, especially since there had been rumours that it had been the work of Black Lodge's sorcerers. So President Hadou Kuzo became the princess's only remaining relative. Yes, precisely. So it can't be helped that the mistress is sensitive when it comes to the old master. Mr. Tiju, Al-Azif, would you please forgive her? How am I supposed to respond to that? I'm the one who needs forgiving. Why am I being apologized to? Unable to answer, I look to Al. She's looking a little weird herself. Well, that seems like a pretty good point to end this part, so I'll say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next.